Hello, everyone. Welcome to Mindalia TV live stream, where thousands of people around the world gather daily to watch the interviews and talks organized by MindaliaTV.com. In this occasion, we have Tilde Guajardo with us with a talk titled The Intuitive Entrepreneur. Tilde is an advisor and facilitator to women in transition, women's empowerment groups, early stage startups, women leaders, and women veterans. Tilde is also a certified positive psychology practitioner and facilitator, and the creator of the Divine Quotient program, which combines spirituality and positive psychology practices to guide participants into being able to identify, leverage their strengths, and realize their unique gifts, greatness, and power. The results of it are being able to live a more clarity, confident, and courageous life, and to achieve the life of their dreams. Sorry. She's also a global speaker and women in transition, female entrepreneurship, overcoming limiting beliefs and fears. Before we start and before we say hi to our very special guest, I would like to remind you all that Mindalia is a nonprofit organization, and our main goals are to spread human knowledge and to support human solidarity by all means. If you would like to help Mindalia reach even more people, please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Mindalia TV. Give us a like on this video or share this video with people you think would benefit from the content that we share in our channel. Also, to allow your interaction, please remember there is a chat on the side of your screen. You can use it to ask all the questions that you would like to Tilde Guajardo, who will kindly answer all of them by the end of her lecture. It is time now to welcome Tilde and her talk, The Intuitive Entrepreneur. Hi, Tilde. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Hi, Paula. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you. We're ready now to listen to your talk.
Okay. Awesome. So welcome, everybody. I'm sorry I can't see you. I would love to see you or be in a room with everyone. So the title of today's talk is The Intuitive Entrepreneur and 4 Ways to Develop and Leverage Your Intuition. So what exactly is an intuitive entrepreneur? Well, in my opinion, it's somebody who taps into your higher self, or what some people might call a sixth sense. And it really helps us to help make decisions faster and to get the results that we're looking for as entrepreneurs. The great thing about utilizing your intuition is that it's not only great for your business, but it crosses over to your life as well. So a couple of famous people that really learned how to utilize and leverage their intuition were Steve Jobs and Albert Einstein. So Steve Jobs had this to say about intuition. And he said, it's more powerful than intellect. Albert Einstein called it the sacred gift. And some of the most important partnerships, products, and ideas were actually born from this place of intuitiveness or instinct or a gut feeling that we might have. So being an intuitive entrepreneur, I believe, is essential to your success and to being able to live a happier and thriving life. So who am I and why should you listen to me? Well, I'm, as Paula said, I have all those titles and things. I spent 20 years in the aviation industry and had a wonderful career there, had a 6-figure cushy job that I could have stayed in for another 20 years if I chose to do so. But I chose to step out of that, step out of my comfort zone, because my intuition was telling me it was time to do that and to pursue my own dreams, my own passion, and my calling. And so what I do now is exactly that. I am following my own intuition, and I did so in 2014 when I stepped out of that 20-year career, retired early, and started my own company on a full-time basis. I had been doing it on a part-time basis, but decided to do it on a full-time basis because my heart wasn't in my career anymore. And maybe a lot of you are feeling that way. Maybe you have a side hustle that you want to turn into a side hustle, but not really sure how to do that. Well, listen to your intuition. And that's exactly what I did, and I've never regretted it. So I hope that the information that I'm imparting to you today will help you, not only if you're in that transitional period, but if you're in maybe a startup mode, or maybe your business is a little sluggish right now. It's time to tap into that intuition a little bit more keenly, so that you can start to make more confident decisions for your business. So that's a little bit more insight about who I am and what I do. Um, I work, as Paula said, I work with spirituality and positive psychology practices. So what does that mean to you? Well, it means that instead of looking at things from a mind body spirit perspective, we always talk about that, or we hear people talking about the mind body spirit connection. I'm going to ask you to turn that around and think of yourself as a spirit mind body connection, because I really believe that our spirit is supposed to control our minds, so that then our minds controls our body. And the reason I say that is because our spirit is really where our dreams, our desires, our ideas are born. And when we tap into our higher self, or our spirits, we have infinite possibilities available to us. And when we look to ourselves, to our own mind, let's say, we are limited by our own beliefs, our own experiences, where our spirit operates on a totally different level. So that's what I'm going to be addressing today. And so your intuition is tapped into that higher self, or your spirit. And so if you hear me say spirit or higher self, I'm intercombining those two. They mean the same thing. So really think about that. Are you operating from a mind body spirit connection, or are you operating from a spirit mind body connection? So that's a key question to be asking yourself in your daily tasks or your daily lives. Are you making decisions from your spirit, or are you making your decisions from your mind? So we'll go a little bit deeper into that in a little bit. So what are we going to cover today? We're going to cover four ways. The first one being slowing down and listening to your inner voice, how to do that. The second one is following your inner voice. And the third thing is practicing an empathetic accuracy. And fourth is practicing mindfulness. And I'll go into deeper detail as to what each one of those means. So the first one, slow down to hear your inner voice. Why is it essential for us to slow down and hear our inner voice? Well, because most of the time we're operating from our subconscious minds. And the way that we operate is we have what we call the subconscious mind, which is where, if you can think of it as your hardware, right? Or as your hard drive. Everything that you see, hear, smell, taste, is stored in your subconscious mind. And we make decisions 80% of the time from that subconscious mind. So a lot of our limiting beliefs, a lot of our fears are developed due to those past experiences that we've had. So in order for us to slow down, and the next level, I'll go into the next level before I go to the next point, but the next level is a conscious mind, where you're present, where you're here, you're now. You're not thinking about what you did yesterday, or what you just had an hour ago, or the conversation you just had an hour ago, and you're not thinking about what's happening an hour from now, or how to plan your day, or how to plan your week. You're really present. That is your consciousness. That is being conscious. That is here, that's now, and very present. And then you have what's called the superconscious, which is where your spirit resides. And so going from the conscious to the superconscious, you really have to be you really have to slow down, because if we operate from our subconscious minds 80% of the time, think about that, 80% of the time we're either thinking about what we should have said, could have said, should have done, or what we could be doing, should be doing here in the next hour or so. We're hardly ever really, unless you really practice to do this, you're really not ever in the present, in the here and the now. And this is where it's essential for us to be able to tap into that higher self, to our intuition, and be able to hear clearly from that perspective. And you're not able to hear clearly when you're hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. Because if you're in any of those states, or you have anxiety or you're stressed, you can't hear clearly and you can't tap into that spirit. So one of the things that really helps me to stay centered, stay aligned, and to stay in that connection with my higher self and my intuition is to spend time alone. You know, I'm an extrovert, like many entrepreneurs are. And I really have to be conscious of the amount of time that I take to myself, that I have that self-care time, and to really be able to be in the here and the now. And for me, spending time alone and being out in nature, going for a long walk around a lake or go hiking, you know, is critical to my well-being. So really start to think about what is it that you can start to do to slow yourself down, to go into your conscious, to be conscious, to be in the here and now. I mean, what puts you in that state of not feeling stress? What relaxes you? So first thing is slow down to hear your inner voice, and what can you do to do that? Second thing is follow your inner voice. Okay, so now you've slowed down, you've tapped into your intuitiveness, and you're able to hear, to a lot of people refer to it as follow your gut. Okay, following your inner voice is following your gut. How many times have you thought about, you know, or thought twice about going into business with somebody or collaborating with somebody, only to regret it because you went ahead and you didn't listen to that feeling that you had in your gut, your heart, or you know, your body was telling you or giving you a signal that it wasn't the right decision. That's what I'm talking about when I say follow your inner voice. Don't dismiss it. Trust it. And in order for you to even hear it, you have to, first of all, slow down so that you're able to hear it, and then follow it. And use both sides of your brain with it. Use your intuitiveness, but also if you have this great idea, okay, we have this great business idea all of a sudden. Don't just think that because you have this idea that you're supposed to go for it and do it. Really use analytical and critical thinking along with your intuition as your checks and balances as to whether or not it's a viable idea. Okay, don't use checks and balances to talk yourself out of doing it, but really just to check it. You know, there's some people out there that know a lot about that are talking about the three brain centers, which are your head, your heart, and your gut. And so when those three things align, you know that it's a solid idea, it's a viable idea. So a lot of times, you know, you've got to do those checks and balances, and not just go simply on your intuition, or because a lot of times we might confuse our intuition with a just an offshoot thought, you know, something that comes and goes out of our head. So really use analytical and critical thinking along with your intuition when you have a new idea as an entrepreneur. It will save you a lot of time and money by doing this instead of just going for it right away. And also in following your inner voice, learn how to pivot. Let's say you do go for that idea and it doesn't work out the way that you think it should. This happened to me when I left the airline industry after 20 years, started took my side hustle and made it a full-time hustle. And I did some things wrong. And I can tell you it scared me half to death because I thought, what have I done? I don't know what I'm doing. But then I just pivoted And well, I learned to pivot because it wasn't that the idea, my mission, my vision were clear. Okay. It was the way that I was getting to the goals that I was setting for myself that I just needed to pivot a little bit and try something different. I didn't need to just throw everything out the window. I just really needed to pivot. And it was my intuition that saved me from, throwing the baby out with the bathwater at that time, because I knew what I felt in my intuition, in my heart, that this is what I was called to do. And so for me, it was just figuring out another way of getting to the goal that I was setting for myself and learning how to pivot. So be flexible with yourself, be gentle with yourself, and follow your inner voice. That's number 2. Number 3 is practice empathetic accuracy. So I like to say intuitive people can read minds. And I know that sounds crazy to a lot of you maybe, but I really think this is true. A lot of entrepreneurs are very empathetic. We have a lot of social intelligence. And so we like being around people. We like to read people. And one of the keen things about honing your intuitiveness as an entrepreneur and also growing your empathy, being empathetic for others and using your social and emotional intelligence to create deep and meaningful relationships with people is essential to your success. And why I say intuitive people can read minds, because most intuitive people are very empathetic. And we not only listen to what people are saying, but we listen to what they're not saying too. And if you allow your intuitiveness to lead you, you can also read people's body language, when they're comfortable, when they're not comfortable, when they might be lying even. Unfortunately, that's not uncommon in business nowadays. So really practice that empathetic accuracy and start to listen to your intuition by being present, by being in here and now, and by listening to the conversations that you're having that are not only coming out of your mouth, but that are coming, the words that are coming out of the individual's mouth that you're speaking to, and what they're not saying as well. Listen to their body language. Your intuition can be really, really great in situations. If you're in a boardroom or if you're in a critical decision-making meeting with a group of people, it's essential that you're able to tap into your intuition for decisions like this. And also really going back to the deep and meaningful connections with people, being more empathetic. You'll have clients or customers or partners for a lifetime if you cultivate these deep and meaningful relationships and really listen to them and maybe know what they're needing even before they know it themselves. So really think about what it is that you can be doing to practice your own empathy. And really, for me, it's just listening more. Being a great listener is one thing, and being able to relate to other people. As entrepreneurs, we've normally gone through a lot of obstacles and challenges to get to where we are. So, empathize with people. Don't just tell people what to do, but tell them how you've been there, done that, how they're feeling, and really nurture those relationships that are essential to your success. So, number 3 is practice empathetic accuracy. Number 4, practice mindfulness. And this is critical for us as entrepreneurs, because we're so quick about thinking, and we think we can multitask, and we think we can do 3 things at the same time, and a lot of times we have to. But at the same time, when we're focused, when we're intentional, and we're in the moment, which is what mindfulness is. Mindfulness is being in the present moment, in the here and the now. We're really at our best. And we're at our best because we're able to have clarity about where we want to go, how we want to get there. And when we focus like that, there's really no stopping us from being successful. I really believe that. When we put our minds to something, it's going to happen. Um, being mindful is is also really helpful because it filters out unnecessary noise. So noise that can be in the environment that you're in. I like to tell people and the people that I work with, be an observer of your life, not an absorber. And so what I mean by that is many times when we walk into a room, there's negativity in the room, there's anger in the room, there's this, there's that. We absorb those feelings. And so one of the things that I've learned to do is not to absorb what other people are putting out, but to be an observer and to hold my own space, my own power, to be mindful when I walk into a room that this is my space. I'm holding myself here and nothing's going to come in. That's being conscious and mindful of the situation that I'm putting myself into. And being an observer has really helped me to also hone that empathetic accuracy as well, to be able to read the room and to know what sorts of energies that I'm looking at, and and then just be able to have those critical conversations with those people. But it really helps me to, and it will help you to be an observer instead of an absorber of emotions and energies that really aren't going to serve you at all. That's one of the most powerful things that mindfulness has done for me, especially working with some women who have gone through trauma or traumatic things like domestic violence or childhood molestation. I am a survivor and a thriver of childhood molestation, so I can relate to that. But I also have learned not to be absorbed by the emotions that women um, are going through at that moment in time, which was really difficult when I started doing this work. I didn't know how to do that, so I was absorbing a lot of those energies, and I was reliving a lot of my own past. And so it was really important for me to learn how not to do that, and how to be empathetic but not absorb a lot of that. So as an entrepreneur, it's also critical for you to be able to go into meetings, to go into networking events, to go in wherever you're going and filter out the unnecessary noise and be an observer of your environment and not an absorber. Meditation is one of the practices that's great for this. I I find it I find it difficult to sit still in just quiet mode. Okay, that's not me. And so what works for me, because my mind is always racing, is breathing, because you can't think and breathe at the same time. I learned that. And so for me, it's either breathing, swimming is a form of my meditation, or listening to praise and worship music, or classical music is one of my favorites as well. And just to be able to meditate on the vibration and the energy that the music is providing for me. It might be something totally different for you. Whatever form of meditation works for you, use it. It's critical to being able to learn how to be present, how to be mindful. And if you need to, it can be, the way that I use mindfulness can be as simple as going from one video conference to the other. Okay, you don't want to take, if you just had a video conference or a meeting that really stressed you out, it was draining, breathe. Breathe before you get to the next meeting. Take a deep breath, take 3 deep breaths. Let all that energy and that stress just leave you, and don't take that into the next meeting. Go in there, refresh, do whatever it is that you need to do so that you're really present and not still thinking about the meeting that just happened. I think, many times we don't even realize that we're doing that. And so for me now, especially being remote, because I'm in Barcelona now, and having meetings in the States and in Europe as well, in different time zones can get kind of crazy. So I really have to be mindful about staying present and doing the best job that I can with every meeting that I'm in. So mindfulness is critical to that. So focus in the moment, practice mindfulness. So the 4 things that we talked about were slowing down to listen to your inner voice and how to do that. Most of these things include mindfulness, and I'm going to bring it home with this: is mindfulness for you as an entrepreneur is critical for you to be able to make decisions faster, to get better results, to make more money, and to work smarter, not harder. It's going to save you a boatload of money by not making mistakes you will make if you don't listen to your intuition. The third thing was practicing empathetic accuracy, building those relationships, being able to listen, be an observer, not an absorber, and practicing mindfulness. And really making it a daily practice is what I would recommend, whether it's breathing, listening to music, hiking, whatever it is that brings you into that present moment, for at least 10 to 15 minutes would be really, really great to start the day that way. I think you'll notice a huge difference in the clarity that you have. Again, the results of all of these are making better decisions faster, earning more money, working smarter, not harder, and achieving more happiness and success. And to me, my happiness is the most important thing. And, you know, why not, if you're not already tapping into your intuition and to your higher self, why not give it a shot? You never know. It might just surprise you. I want to thank you for joining me. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments, and Paula will let me know what they are.
Thank you, Tilde. There you go. Sorry about that. Thank you, Tilde, for sharing all this information live with us. Right before we start with the segment of the questions from the audience, I would like to remind you all that if you would like to help the world through Mindalia, there are a few things that you can do. One of them is to subscribe to our YouTube channel. The other one will be to give a like to this video or leave a positive comment down below. Please note that with these actions, you're helping us reach even more people around the world who can benefit from the content that we share in our channel. It is now time, Tilde, to pass on the questions from the audience. I'm going to have you on camera, and I'm going to read out loud to you the questions, okay?
Okay.
So the first question we have says, how do I hear to my inner voice? I get confused with all the thoughts that run through my head.
Right. So I read a book called The Untethered Soul, and I think his name was Brendan Johnson, if I'm not mistaken. So you can Google it, and it's on Amazon. But what he said, how you can tell the difference is that as you're listening to these voices, right? Well, who's listening? That's your higher self. The voices that you're hearing in your head are normally voices from your past. They're normally negative voices. They're normally questioning, questioning yourself. And so my question to you is, when you're hearing these voices, who's actually hearing it? So that's where your higher self resides. And I hope I'm making sense. Because, like, let's say, I'll give you an example. I'm driving down the street and I'm thinking, oh, I should have done this, or I should have done that, or I could have done this. As I'm saying those things, my spirit, my higher self, is the one listening. So that's not the space that your intuition comes from. The space that your intuition comes from is when you're hearing directly from your spirit. And so there's a big difference in the way that you talk to yourself, There's a big difference in the way that you feel. And I would ask you to also do a heart and gut check when you're hearing those voices. Does it align with your heart and your gut? And if it doesn't, then it's not your intuition.
Great, thank you, Tilde. We have another question around along the same lines. It says, how can we differentiate our intuition voice from our regular thoughts? I've taken wrong business decisions believing it was my intuition.
Right. Well, and my question to them is, did they do the checks and balances? So with your intuition, yes, you can have a great idea, but you also need to do the checks and balances, and not to disprove your idea, but to see whether or not it's viable. So if you have a great idea for a retail business, I'm going to use this for an example. If you have a great idea for a retail business or some things that you need to change in your retail business, well, before you start making those changes, actually check out, how much it's going to cost. Do the financials on it. Is it feasible? How long is it going to take? So all those checks and balances, not to disprove your idea, but just to make sure that it is viable, that it still aligns with the vision that you had about doing what you were going to do.
All right, thank you, Tilde. Let's move on to the next question. What do you recommend to someone who thinks that has a good idea but lacks courage to put it into action?
I would suggest reading the book Rework. It changed my life because I was sitting on my idea of Womanars for a long time. And everybody kept telling me, you got to have a business plan. Well, my idea was huge. Okay. It was huge. And I was stumped. I was like, I don't even know where to begin with this business plan, and every time I get started, somebody would tell me to do it some other way and do it this way and that way. But when I read the book Rework, it totally liberated me from thinking I needed a business plan. All I needed was to start. And so that's what I say to you. If to have the courage is just start. Take that first step. If you really feel like it's your calling or what you're being called to do right now, or if it's a great idea and you've done all the checks and balances, just start. Take that first step. And then listen to your spirit, really get connected, and figure out what that first step is that's going to be a priority for you.
All right, thank you, Tilde. The next question says, I'm a very sensitive person to people's energy. How can I remain calm how can I remain calm in front of a negative or passive-aggressive person that I have to work with?
Well, that's when you really have to be practicing mindfulness away from work. Being prepared to go into, we all have those people that we know we're going to come in contact with that aren't as positive as we'd like them to be, and sometimes they're just a pain in the butt, right? So what I do is just prepare myself. If you know you're going to be around them on a daily basis, what I've told myself is they are doing the best that they can. Okay? They really are. Everybody around us is doing the best that they can. Now, why does it bother you so much? What is it about them that bothers you so much? Is it their negativity, or is it something else? I mean, really, and don't do it to judge them, but really do it to be more self-aware about you and what is it about what they're saying or doing that really offends you. And again, learn to be that observer and not an absorber. Really think about, yes, they might say a lot of negative things, but they're also go into that non-judgmental zone. And I think this is where a lot of us get stuck in, is that we try to judge everything, or we're used to judging everything. And instead of doing that, just tell yourself they're doing the best that they can. You don't know what their home life is like. You don't know what their struggles are. You don't know why why they're doing or saying the things that they're saying. So just let them do the best that they're doing, and, you know, avoid them if you can. Certainly, you know, don't counsel them if that's not what you're called to do, but really just start to pay attention and to your own self and to your own feelings and emotions, and ask yourself why it is that you feel the way that you feel, and if you have to, avoid them. Not your feelings, but avoid the people that you're coming in contact with that are causing you the stress. But it really comes down to learning how to hold your space, hold your power, and be confident enough in yourself that people like that don't affect you, or your energy anymore.
All right, let's move on to the next question. It says, how can we make our relationships, our work relationships, stronger?
Listen. Listen, really start to pay attention and listen. Use that empathetic accuracy, by being curious. Be curious about your employees, um, about your coworkers. You know, ask them questions about themselves. People are always happy to talk about themselves, or to, you know, celebrate something that they've done with somebody else. Be curious and ask questions, and use that empathetic accuracy to really develop and cultivate those relationships to where you're deepening them by listening to them. You know, people want to feel like they matter and that they're heard. And so you do those two things for people, you're golden.
Awesome. Thank you, Tilde, for this information. Let's see. We're going to move on to the next question. From your experience, what is the hardest situation we go through as entrepreneurs, and how did you overcome it?
I'm sorry, I missed the first part of
It
it.
says, from your experience, what is the hardest situation we go through as entrepreneurs, and how did you overcome it?
For me, it was self-doubt, for sure. It was second guessing myself constantly at the beginning, and wondering whether or not I was making the best decision. And it really just, it was paralysis by analysis. I think that's probably one of the most critical things that holds us back as entrepreneurs, is just self-doubt. And so for me, it was critical to really learn how to trust myself, learn how to trust my intuition more. There were times where, you know, of course you want to listen to counsel. Of course you want to have those mentors and advisors that have been there and done that. But in the end, it's up to us to decide what's best for us and our business. And so, instead of being like so-and-so and doing business like so-and-so, do business like you. And the only way that you can do that is really by tapping into that intuition, and knowing who you are, staying true to your vision, and just trusting yourself more. So self-doubt was probably one of the biggest challenges that I faced as an entrepreneur. And I know many entrepreneurs also face, you know, the funding issue, which is a totally different topic aside from this. But yeah, it was the self-doubt and really developing the confidence that I needed to know that I could trust myself.
Thank you, Tilde. Another question says, what can you tell other women to start trusting themselves?
What can I tell other women?
Yes, what can you tell other women to start trusting themselves?
I say, gosh, I'm not sure I understand the question. Like what?
I believe it means business-wise, probably, or it's just when you're starting an idea. That's my guess only. It only says, what can you recommend other women to start trusting themselves?
Aside from tapping into your intuition, I think women have gosh, there's women naturally have a sixth sense. And, you know, if you are tapping into that intuition and really connecting with your higher self, I think we're unstoppable, to be honest with you, just because we have such a keen sense of it. And it helps us in not only our business, but also our personal life. It helps us to really just trust ourselves. And when we're coming from that space of connectedness and alignment with what I call God, you might call it your higher power or your source. But I really think that that's where an unlimited amount of confidence for me comes from, that I know no matter what, I'm taken care of. You know, I might make a wrong decision, and that's okay. And I've made them, believe me, and I'm okay. You know, you bounce back a lot faster when you learn how to tap into your higher self. And I think for women, trusting that and trusting ourselves, trusting our gut, is essential, not only in business but also in our personal lives as well.
Thank you, Tilde. We have reached the last question of this occasion, and a few people from the chat are asking if you can please mention other practices of mindfulness that you do that you would recommend.
Other practices of mindfulness, sure. So mindfulness is anything that stills your mind and puts you in the present moment. Okay, so what you can do, what I'm going to ask everybody to do, is just think about what are the times where you just feel relaxed, like there's no care in the world. What is that state? For a lot of people, it's cooking. Okay, it can be simple as cooking. I know I like to cook once in a while just to take my mind away, and because all I'm focused on is cooking, but it's also a form of mindfulness and meditation to be really present. Another thing that I do, like I said, I do swimming, I do breathing, I do meditation with music, because I've got a monkey mind and I can't just sit in quiet. Hiking, I do a lot of hiking. And I'm trying to think of other things, but like I said, if, you know, for some people it's just relaxing, sitting on your couch, reading a book that takes you somewhere else. But really, it's just being present and being mindful of the things around you. You know, when you're with your family, really concentrate on what they're saying, what they're doing, body language. Even that itself is being mindful. When you're at lunch with somebody, or going to lunch with your best friend, your husband, your partner, whomever it is, being mindful and present is listening, you know, is really being there and putting your phone away, so that you're not distracted from them or from that moment in time. I mean, let's really think about it. You know, when you're present with somebody, you're never going to get that moment back, right? And if you care about them, and if you want to practice this mindfulness, and if you want to practice that, even that empathetic accuracy, really practice in being there and focusing on them, what they're saying, what they're not saying too. So those are some of the things that you can do to practice that mindfulness factor, for sure. Then, like I said, anything else that helps you to relax that I didn't mention, that kind of just quiets your mind, do that. Whatever it is, that's being mindful, that's being present.
Thank you so much, Tilde. We have reached the end of this interesting talk and the questions also from the audience. We want to thank you again for all the information that you had shared live on Mindalia TV. Before we finish, we would like to give you a moment so you can give to all our audience your contact information, so we all know how to find you.
Sure. Thank you so much, everybody. Thanks for joining us, or joining, yes, us, me and Paula. And you can reach out to me at iamtilde.com or womanars.com as well. Or you can just email me at tilde@womanars.com and let me know that you saw me here on Mindalia, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have after this. Just let me know. And you can also follow me on Facebook, personally, or at Womanars, as well as Instagram. Instagram, it's both Womanars and Tilde Travels, since I'm always traveling all over the place. So you can definitely connect with me. I'd love to connect with you, and hashtag Mindalia, and we'll get connected.
Thank you, Tilde. Again, to all our audience, thank you so much for watching, and thank you for your important participation. And we'll see you next time on Mindalia TV Live. Thank you all for watching.